Hey, I'm Short. In this video, I'm going to show you how to transfer your Audi flip key from an old model to a new key housing. Here's how it works. First, make sure the key is flipped open. And the first step we'll take is to remove the battery cover on the back. The easiest way to do this is to find the notch on the side where the key ring is attached and use a flat screwdriver to gently pry up the battery cover. Sometimes it doesn't work on the first try, and in that case, you can also use the notch on the side, where the key would normally be folded in, to push it a bit further. For me, it comes loose quite nicely, and here, as you can see, we can look at the inside. So, we have a battery holder right here, and we can also see 3 screws. We'll start with the large one. I'm just using a flathead screwdriver for this. That's one. I'll use a smaller Phillips screwdriver for the little ones. That's 2, just to be clear, and that's number 3. In most cases, you can now easily open the key in one go now that all the screws are out. In some cases, there might be a bit of glue along the edges. What you can do then is take a small pair of pliers and place it in between here. You could do it as follows. You place the pliers in the deepest notch and make sure the arms of the pliers open up inside it. And this is what you'll end up seeing. Don't be alarmed if you hear a little crack. That's just the glue, the layer of glue that's breaking, not the casing itself. Okay, I'll open it up right away. Because there's tension on the spring, it wants to unwind immediately to release that tension, and that's completely fine. We have the top part of the casing. There's nothing special in here, and on the underside we see 3 components. We have the key blade, which has been cut. We have the piece of electronics, and we have the transponder. Now I see that in the key I just opened, a small transponder is glued to the key housing, but this is not always the case. In most cases, there is a small black or grayish box situated in this spot. And if you gently pry it loose and carefully open it, you'll see a similar glass transponder inside. By the way, it's very important to transfer this to the new key housing, because without a transponder the car won't start. Now let's set these parts aside for a moment and make room for the new key housing. We'll go through the same steps. Once again, carefully remove the battery cover. Also take the screws out of the housing right away. And finally, we'll open this housing as well. Now we actually find the same key here again, so we can make sure that the electronics will be placed back in here, that the transponder is in its place, and that the cut key also ends up in your new key. Let's start with the first thing, which is the transponder. Again, I often find that this is not glued to the key, but is loose inside the black compartment. I carefully try to remove this from the circuit board, and in the new casing we can see that a small compartment has been made specifically to place a new transponder in. I quickly remove the glue residue from the transponder I have here. That makes it a bit easier for me to get it into place. Next, I place it in this container. Press it down firmly and make sure it can't move around in there. Once the transponder is in place, you can put the electronics on top. And here we can see that there are also notches in the circuit board that match the protrusions of the casing. It can only be inserted in one way. The last component is the key blade, and I'll grab a new one for a moment. It's not always possible to transfer the original key blade to a new key. You can always try that first. But if that doesn't work, you can always choose to have the new key blade cut by a locksmith so that the new casing can function as a new key. Well, the key blade actually consists of three parts. We have the metal blade, which also has the flip mechanism attached to it here. We have the push button that you press to make the flip key pop open, and we have a spring. Now we proceed as follows. On the inside of the flip mechanism, you can see that there are three small notches, and these just so happen to match the notches we see here on the push button. We let those fall into place. Next, we make sure that the spring is positioned correctly. Turn it around a bit until it drops in a little deeper. Once we've reached this point, we place this spring with the protruding part right on top of the black pin. Well, if you were to close it at this stage, the spring wouldn't be under tension right away, so we need to rotate it once. When you have it in front of you like this, we hold the housing firmly. We press the folding mechanism down slightly, and while doing that, we rotate it once. At this point, it becomes a bit harder to hold, because now that there's tension on the spring, it really wants to snap out of position quickly. Once we've reached this stage, we place the top part of the housing. Make sure it's closed properly. At this point, you can briefly check what happens. And indeed, it now snaps open nicely, which means we can continue with installing the screws. Again, I start with the largest screw first. By the way, never tighten this one too much. If you make it too tight, it could prevent the key from flipping open properly. Then we also fasten the small screws again. So two, and that's almost three. Of course, these are small screws, so it can be a bit fiddly to get everything in place. Next, make sure to transfer your old battery to the new holder, or if you have a new holder, I'll just put it in place. We make sure the key sits properly on top and then click it into place. By the way, make sure of this. Pay close attention when you insert the battery. The text should always face the battery cover, so not with the text facing upwards. If you do that, the key won't work. There won't be any signal from the remote control. So you always want to make sure the text faces the battery cover. Click everything back into place, and you can immediately test with the old one to see if it sends a good signal and if it starts up properly again. And that's how you transfer this key to a new key housing. Hopefully everything went well with transferring your key housing. If you didn't quite figure it out, you'll find our contact information in the description below this video, or you can leave a comment under this video, and I'll be happy to help you further. Success!